Ready for me? Mic check, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Microphone check, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. Good? Cool.
We can talk loud. Are you going to start it out, Bishop?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But we'll need you close. We'll need you to come close.
Okay.
And because you'll introduce the family.
Okay.
I'll start off. I'll open it to the family. And then he'll introduce the family. Because what we're going to do after the
Brittany and Naftali, you guys want to come on over here with your families?
Thank you for
I'll have you guys right here.
Excuse me, baby. I'm going to have to stand there. We'll stand back. But let's come up front.
And Dr. Mann. Thank you. And you all stay right here.
You want us here? That kind of direct us,
Yeah.
right? And I'm going to, is it okay if I drop this? This top, and then we'll put it back on? Good afternoon. I'm Bishop Jerry Demmer. I am the president of the Greater Metro Denver Ministerial Alliance. And we've come together today concerned about things that have been taking place in Aurora since I was a teenager. We come together to talk about some of the changes that has to happen in Aurora. Others will speak, but we got a 6-year-old baby here that was laid on the concrete in heat just like this. We actually today have 3 different families that children have been handcuffed, guns drawn on them, that you're going to hear from these mothers that are going to speak how they feel about what's been going on. We don't have to say it, that it is contagious amongst the African American community. We say it without reserve, that it would never been a 6-year-old white baby laid on concrete in the heat. So thank you, media, for being here. And with that said, I'm going to relinquish my stand, and I'm going to turn it over to Attorney David Lane, which is here, and he's an attorney for 2 of the families represented here today.
Thank you, Bishop. First of all, I just want to thank everyone for being here. Kilmer Lane and Newman has been
police brutality, it was injustice. Because not once did anyone ever check a license, a registration, anything to clear up anything. They held a gun on a 6-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 17-year-old, and myself. I have never been placed in a pot of racism before, and I'm from Compton, California. I'm from one of the hearts of it. But to move out of state and come here and have a police officer pull a gun on me just to say, whoops, the stolen vehicle we looking for is a motorcycle out of state. Is a whole bunch of BS. They racially profiled me and these kids. We are girls. We are women.
That's right. That's right.
We got identified as black girls. On every news report, that's when I seen a black girl and her kids.
Wow.
I am more than a black woman.
Girl.
I am every woman.
Yeah.
I am beyond pissed. Not just for me, but for my kids. For them to say, oh no, we're not going to do anything but pay for therapy costs and a sorry apology that's not genuine, that's not heartfelt.
That won't do.
That would never do for me. All I hear at night is my kids' screams. 12 minutes of screaming. How do you shut that out? And you say therapy is going to help? I need more than just a little bit of therapy. These kids need more than just a little bit of therapy. We are all traumatized by what happened because we never had that happen before. And had it had been a white family or a police family, it would never have happened. I am beyond angry. I had had enough. I'm at my breaking point with Aurora Police Department and Denver Police Department because it don't take that much to do that job. You chose your career. If you didn't like it, you should have changed it. At any point, at any time, someone could have changed the route of the situation. It was 5 police officers on the scene when they had kids on the floor and kids handcuffed. Not one officer changed the route it was going. And then you pat 4 kids down, 4 girl kids, a male officer. I didn't give you authority to touch my kids. They was uncomfortable. And they have to keep reliving the same situation over and over again. They would never be the same. I'm beyond hurt that something happened to me and these kids.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I heard about the George Floyd, Elijah McClain, Tamar Martin, Trayvon Martin, all of this. I heard it all. But you know what? I've never been placed in that pot until now.
Wow.
I never understand protest until now.
Wow.
I never knew what it was like to fight until now.
My God.
And I'm going to keep fighting for me and these kids. And not for me, just me and these kids. For every black person that ever had to deal with this. Every minority that had to ever deal with this. I don't care if you black, brown, purple, pink, wherever the hell you are. You are every person. We all bleed the same. And I'm going to leave it off with just saying this to Aurora Police Department. Though the devil may bruise my flesh, you would never touch any one of our souls. Simple as that.
Amen. Amen.
again throughout America. Black people are being dehumanized. It's not just the adults being dehumanized, but now our kids are being dehumanized. An officer pulled his weapon out on my 14-year-old, my 8-year-old, and my 2-year-old. He came to my house to try to justify what he did and bring free groceries. At no point within our discussion did he ever apologize. He wanted to justify the fact that he pulled his gun out on children and ordered them and barked commands and yelled expletives at them, where my 2-year-old jumped out the car in fear. My 14-year-old wet herself while this police officer had his gun drawn on her. Now I got to deal with my 8-year-old wanting to sleep in the bed with mommy and daddy because she's having nightmares that daddy got shot. I got to deal with a 14-year-old that does not trust police officers whatsoever.
She don't sleep well.
She doesn't sleep well. We had them in therapy, but we're tired. When are the excuses going to stop? When is there real change going to happen? Is my black face, does it intimidate officers when they see that I'm African American? It seems as though it does. And when we look at what's going on in the atmosphere around the country, black people are being treated less than human. And we need equality. We want justice for my family.
And I'm going to say this, that I told my girls that I'm not going to stop this fight until we don't have to worry about someone else's family having to go through the trauma that my kids have to face from this incident. They don't sleep well. My daughter talks to her therapist. My daughter, she's excelling in school, and therapy is keeping her leveled. But it's not enough. There needs to be change within the system, the training, how police approach different situations. There needs to be a retraining. So if these officers need to go back through a regroup and retrain and recode how they approach situations, something has to give.
Chief Parson had reached out to my family and said that he wanted to speak to my family. Me and my lawyer talked about it, and we were very open and engaging, and we wanted to have that meeting with the chief. The day of the meeting, he found out that the NAACP was going to be there. He pulled out of the meeting. He said that he would reschedule for me and my family to meet with him, but every time we reached out to him, he was not available. These are the type of things that we're talking about. You want to rebrand Denver Police, you want to rebrand Aurora Police, and you can't even follow through with a meeting with a family that suffered an injustice that no white family would have suffered. So we're tired of photo ops. We're tired of empty promises. We would like to see change in Colorado.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We have 3 representatives that work very hard in Aurora from the Greater Metro Denver Ministerial Alliance. And we're getting ready to go to those 3. I'm going to call now for Pastor Topaz McBride that is familiar with these situations and has another family that have been accosted. Pastor Topaz.
Good afternoon. I am not only a pastor, but I am a therapist representing this family, working with this family, who experienced a very similar situation in May of this year with Aurora PD. And so I'm going to introduce you to the mother, Angela, who will speak to the details of what took place with that incident. Angela?
Hi, so I'm Angela Davis. I grew up in Aurora, grew up in this area, went to Hinckley High School, went to Park Lane and North. On May 15th, my daughter was driving, leaving from her stepbrother's house. I had texted her like, hey, you need to start making your way to the house. She's a 19 college student at Penn State, honor student. It's 2 in the morning. I'm like, make your way to the house. It's getting late. She's like, okay, Mom, I'm on my way via text. We're like 5-10 minutes from where she was. So it's 15 minutes later, and she's never not missed a curfew. So I'm texting her. Then I start calling, no response. Something is telling me something's going wrong. I get a call from a number I don't know. It's a sergeant. He calls me and tells me that my daughter is not being cooperative. He has been pulled over, and I need to come to the scene. When I come to the scene, my kids are handcuffed. She's 19. He's saying that she didn't identify herself, but his partner has not only her valid driver's license, her bank card and her social fell out of her lap when they did what they call a high-risk stop, where they had guns drawn on her. They said they pulled them over because a light-colored sedan left the scene of a shooting. The light-colored sedan she was in that day was a 2018 Mercedes-Benz, registered in my name. They still pulled her over, made her drop the keys out of the car, unlocked the car. They drug her and her stepbrothers out of the car, placed them face down on the concrete, handcuffed them. They were still handcuffed when I got there, and they only started unhandcuffing them when I came to the scene, demanding that, first of all, I'm not even going to talk to you until you unhandcuff my daughter and her brothers, like right now. So he's telling me that he couldn't identify them. That's why they're handcuffed. I'm like, Jayla told you who she was. You have her driver's license. That's her identification. And so after that moment, they unhandcuffed everybody. They left. I stayed and talked with the sergeant. It was only because the next day I pressed the issue. I reached out to the captain, to District 2, to the boss lieutenant, to see what was gonna happen. It wasn't until they called me in I got to see the video footage of them using a high-risk stop where they had guns pulled on my daughter. And at the end of the day, she was nowhere in the scene of the vicinity of the crime, of a shooting, told them they did not know of a shooting. And the officer, I really think, got mad because Jayla, being 19, told her brothers not to say anything because they were minors until I showed up to the scene, which is well within her right as a college student, a political science major. She's learning, so she's using all this knowledge, and that's what we want our kids to do. We send them away. Jayla's 1,500 miles away from me. She doesn't have no family there. So I've definitely raised her right how to act. And it's only her bravery that no one got killed that night. Only because of her standing up for these kids and keeping them calm. They're crying. Jayla's like, I got this. Mom is on her way. Everybody calm down. Be quiet. She's 19, handcuffed, trying to console an 8th grader, a 9th grader, a 10th grader, and an 11th grader, all under 17. And so I'm just tired. I'm 44, never happened to me. I grew up in Aurora. To see my baby go through this at 19, only had a driver's license 3 years, her interaction with the police is not good. She doesn't even want to have an interaction with them. She's not going to call them if someone breaks into our house because she doesn't have a good experience with them. And thank God for Pastor Topaz. She's been working with Jayla. Jayla was a little reluctant to go because of the stigma, but I'm glad she's facing her fear and going and getting help because I think that is the only thing that's going to help her, but we need change. This can't continue to happen to our kids.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
And so I just want to add that I have spoken with Chief Wilson about this incident. We have yet been able to connect directly with the family. She said she didn't get my messages because I did follow up with her to schedule an appointment with the family. So hopefully I look forward to that happening in the immediate future. As we spoke on a conference meeting the other day, and she indicated that she would ensure that this happened because the lieutenant that met with the family has yet to follow through, and this incident happened in May. So this incident did not make it to social media. The only reason that we're seeing the uproar that we're seeing around the nation, around the world, is because of the few videos that make it to social media. But the numbers of incidents, the numbers of brutality and inhumanity emasculation. The number in which that happens is far beyond what has made it to the press.
That's right.
And so because we know that there are numbers, high numbers out there of victims, of families who are yet traumatized because no one has given them the attention deserved, no one has given them the justice deserved, we stand before you today because this cannot become the norm. This cannot be acceptable, and this will no longer be tolerated. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next two speakers are Greater Metro Denver Ministerial Alliance. Our parliamentarian will come first, Bishop Foreman Harvest Church, which also has his church in Aurora.
Well, good afternoon. I'll be very brief. We've heard three examples that really bring highlight to a systemic problem of corruption within the Aurora Police Department. The reality is that this is the norm, unfortunately, in the city of Aurora. As a pastor here, as a leader here of people of all backgrounds, all races, I want to first be very clear. The Greater Metro Denver Ministerial Alliance is not anti-law enforcement. What we are is anti-police brutality. We're anti-white supremacy, and we are anti the systems and structures that continue to perpetuate this lifestyle. The reality is we heard from the chief that these situations, one in particular, would not have happened had that family been white. So when you've got a department that acknowledges that but yet refuses to take the appropriate action to change it, it's appropriate for us to step in and do what we do. So what we're saying is we will no longer be silent. And let me be very clear. Every elected official and every official that is appointed by those whom we elect, they work for us. They are not doing us a favor. They are our employees. And when we summons them and call them to action, they have a civic and moral, frankly, responsibility to take action. Here are the facts, folks. They are not doing it. They're not getting it done. So we're here today to say this is not only intolerable, it's unacceptable. And we demand not just apologies. Apologies will not make up for what happened to these families, but not just these families, but the families that, as the speaker before me indicated, that we know nothing about. I had my own scenario. I watched an officer be harsh with an African-American young man right outside of our church. I called the police department on him. And do you want to know what dispatch did? She gave my personal phone number to the officer I called about in an attempt to intimidate me. Well, you've got the wrong organization for that.
All right.
So let me be very clear.
Right.
We are not just demanding apologies, we're demanding action. And the speaker after me will be very specific, very clear about what we're demanding. But this is more than just platitudes. Everybody knows what's going on in America. Everybody sees what's happening in America. The reality is when is something going to be done? Well, today we are making it very clear. Change is here and change is now. And whomever does not comply with that change, we will get.
Yes, we will.
Welcome to change. It's 2020.
The Reverend Dr. Thomas Mays, that has been working in the Aurora community for 30 plus years, that's totally involved in different boards, commissions, is here to speak to us. Dr. Mays.
Well, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Aurora Police Department, we need a new answer. We're not going to accept the answer we've been getting. As you notice, our city building is boarded up. Our police department is boarded up. Our courthouse is boarded up. And the eyes of our city are boarded up.
Wow.
We don't care if it's implicit bias or explicit bias. Your bias is about to come to an end. One thing we understand, that your bias will not be tolerated. Your apologies will not be accepted. No, we don't accept your apology. We don't want your apology. Your apology does us no good whatsoever. We can do nothing with your apology. When you lay a 6-year-old child, especially a black child, on the pavement, you laid me on the pavement.
Yeah.
You didn't just lay these women on the pavement. You laid my wife and my daughters on the pavement when you laid them there. When they put the knee on the neck of Mr. Floyd, they put their knee on my neck.
That's right. That's right.
You have to understand that we are one together.
That's right.
We don't only have strong backs, we have strong minds, and we understand when you take the time to orchestrate a response to the questions we ask. We understand when you say, well, guess what, one of the officers was only on the job 2 days. Or it's a female, she's a minority, she's a person of color. You think you've told us something that's going to cause us to have empathy? No, what you've told us, that they're like that coming out the gate.
That's right.
Just came out of the academy and they cannot make a judgment call to take a 6-year-old child off hot pavement. Something's wrong with their mentality. Don't tell us about, we don't want to hear about you have a few bad apples. You have a problem picking apples. If you don't pick bad apples, you won't have bad apples.
There you go.
We're here today to tell you we want those officers fired. If they don't have the mentality, we don't care about your training.
Yeah. About your policy.
Your policy means little to us if their mentality, their heart is not for the people of Aurora. They don't need to work for the city of Aurora.
Right.
They work for us.
That's right.
They don't work for the mayor. They don't work for the city manager.
That's right.
They work for us. And we're demanding action, not yesterday, but right now.
Right now.
Because we're fed up with your apologies. We're fed up with your retraining and your de-escalation.
That's right.
It's time for change. Don't tell me the police department, and I've heard it from police officers, well, our system is broken. It's not broken, it's working just the way you planned for it to work.
Right.
Just the way it was designed to hold the black people down, hold them under subjection, hold them under bondage. Guess what? Your real good thing is about to come to an end. It's over. We don't need you to retrain. We need to redesign, redirect, and reform the police department. No, I'm not talking about defunding. What I'm talking about is restructuring our police department to where it begins to look like us, talk like us, communicate with us, and serve us.
That's right.
We need you to protect and serve us, not to kill us,
That's right.
not to take our children
That's right.
and lay them on the pavement because you said there is a motorcycle. How ridiculous!
Stupid.
How would you have the audacity to even make a statement? I thought that it was a stolen vehicle. There is no confusion here.
No, not for us.
It may be for you, but it's not for us.
No, sir.
We understand it because I've been in Denver all my life.
All your life.
I've been in Aurora since 1984.
Look at you.
I've been pulled over. I've had guns drawn on me, so I know they're not lying. I know this is not something that just started.
That's right.
This is not something that just started. This has always been.
That's right.
Yes, we had a black police chief for 5 years. Did it make a difference? No! We don't need another black officer. We need a police department that is structured to serve the people of Aurora.
That's right.
We need a county, Arapahoe County district attorney that will speak on behalf of the people. Have enough guts
That's right.
to charge them when they're wrong. Don't tell me about you've got to investigate. We've seen it, you've seen it, the world has seen it. All of us have seen it.
That's right.
There's no question about whether or not he should have put the child on the ground. I'm appalled when I heard David Lane say today that he approached the city of Aurora and they said they had no desire whatsoever to talk about it or to settle anything.
Wow.
That means you have nothing to say about laying that child on the ground?
Are you kidding me?
Drawing guns.
Are you serious? You're telling me you have nothing to say to me when you have laid women on the ground and had men pat them down?
Oh.
Let me put my hands on a white woman.
Whoa.
I guarantee you what'll happen to me.
Whoa. Whoa.
But you put your hands on our black women.
Yeah.
You put your hands on our black children. No, we don't want an apology. We want your badge. We want your badge. That's what we want. And we came today to ask you, will you have enough guts? Will you have enough integrity to say, hey, I'm not fit for this job. I can't make a decision to pull a 6-year-old child off the ground. My morals don't dictate to me humanity and treating every man, woman, boy, and girl, regardless of their color, the same as I would treat my own children. You wouldn't put your child on the ground on cement, so don't put mine there. You wouldn't do it to your women, don't do it to mine.
That's right. Come on.
I'm not going to assimilate.
No.
I'm black and I'm proud to be black. And I'm going to be black till the day I die. And if you have problems with my blackness, guess what? I will not allow you to make me or our people feel like we're nobody. Because our good leader that's gone on to glory, Martin Luther King said something. He said, never let anyone take away your somebodyness. We are somebody.
I am somebody.
This 6-year-old child, she's somebody. These girls, they're somebody. These young men, they're somebody. And I need the police department, Aurora Police, you need to know that. I'm on the police task force.
Yeah, you were.
I've been asked to reconsider whether I should even be on a lawsuit or be on the task force. Guess what? I'm here to stay.
Come on.
I'm here to fight until the day I die. I have children and grandchildren. I'm not going nowhere. So get what? Get used to it.
Better not.
Because we don't need the same answer. We need a new answer from you. Your answer is going to have to change.
That's right.
Your solutions are going to have to change. And we're going to fight and stand here until it happens.
Yes, sir.
That's what we're about. That's what the Alliance is about. That's what the NAACP stands for. We're going to fight for justice. Because guess what? If it happened to these children, if nobody says anything,
That's right.
and nobody does anything, it'll happen to the next one.
That's right.
So your bad apples can't be used for apple pie. They can't be used for applesauce. Your bad apples they're only good to throw away. So we're telling you today, get rid of them.
Get rid of the bad apples.
Throw away the bad apples.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We want to say, we're beginning here, and then we're going to open it up for questions. But it begins, somebody said, charity begins at home and spreads abroad. We're starting here. This is our home. This is where we live. But we're also joining a national movement. We're also joining the Reverend Al Sharpton in Washington on August the 28th that says, get your foot off of our neck. We're not asking, we're demanding it. And we believe in the George Floyd bill. Get your foot off of our neck. We're ready for questions.
Aurora Police just selected a new chief, which is interim chief. Do you support Vanessa Wilson as the chief, permanent chief of Aurora Police?
I don't accept her.
Yeah, we support her.
I'm sorry. We had a 2-minute, 28 conversation. You act like we had a full conversation.
Come on up. This is mother.
Apology,
Come on, baby.
and then say therapy costs, and then you justify the fact that what happened to me and these kids is okay. Oh, it's protocol and it's procedure that you handcuff. That you tried to handcuff the 6-year-old. Let's start right there. But her wrist was too small, and my 14 niece wouldn't let it happen. So you tried to handcuff her. But instead of you doing that, you handcuff a 12-year-old and a 17-year-old and then try to move on. And not only that, you start patting them down. It's all recording. You start patting them down, and then a lady start recording. And then for you to say, like, you know, oh, you basically contradicted yourself. Oh, I feel disgusted about everything that happened to you and those kids. You feel disgusted, but then you go off on the news and say, oh, I feel like they was doing it in good faith. Good faith. Good faith. So we was being held at you know, in a parking lot for 2 hours. Good faith. Good faith. That's good faith. But can no one clear it up? And the whole time after you cleared it up, you know what you said? Oh, it's a motorcycle that we're looking for. But it's in the state of Montana.
Wow.
I want to know how me and 4 kids is going to hop on a motorcycle in Montana and get the rolling. I want to know how that's going to happen. And not only that, they saying that, you know, Aurora Police Department, that, you know, they was just going based off the license plate. So when my vehicle came up stolen, how did you know it was mine? I want to know that. Did you use the description? Did you use the license plate? You just going based off the license plate number. How did you know at that point in time that that vehicle was mine? You would never have known if you just going based off of their license plate number. You mean to tell me not one person got on the radio, dispatch or anything, that whole time me and 4 kids was there to say anything like, you know what, maybe we have the wrong vehicle.
Maybe, just maybe.
Maybe we have the wrong vehicle.
Yeah.
Maybe we have the wrong people.
Yeah. You got children.
But then you go back and say that my license plate and my car description fits the description of the vehicle that was supposedly stolen in Montana. That I got an SUV. What the? A motorcycle and SUV don't even match.
No.
Change. Not just for me, for these kids, for these people, for everyone. Change.
Yes, right.
That's it. I would understand if you would have changed every single route that you tried to take, every officer on that scene. But not only that, it was 14 police cars there by the time I left. By the time I was leaving, it was 14 police cars. For me and 4 girls.
Yeah.
And you know what they say? Oh, the situation got irate. The situation got hostile.
If it's a motorcycle.
Girls.
Wow.
I never once was it hostile. But by the time it got hostile, it was already 10 police officers on there. By the time I started speaking my mind, speaking my freedom, it was already 10 police officers there. For you just to say, oh yeah, I'm sorry, we didn't verify anything. Well, we know you didn't verify anything. You was flawed from the get-go.
That's right.
Everyone on that scene was flawed from the get-go. You didn't do a high-risk stop.
That's right.
You came behind the parked vehicle that was sitting there for more than 5 minutes.
Jeez.
And then you go and say, oh, it's the dispatcher. We're going based off what the dispatcher said. And then you go say, we went off the license plate reader. And then you go and say, we got a call for your vehicle being in front of our thrift store that was reported stolen. That's what you told Channel 9 News. It stated in the report. Your words don't lie. Neither do video, neither do cameras. They never will lie.
Great job. Thank you. Great job.
So I do not care about this new chief of police. She could shove it. That's the way I feel. I would like to say a lot of other mean things about her, but I'm not even going to go there.
My God.
Because she's not worth it. The Aurora Police Department is not worth it. But that won't stop me from fighting. Because I'm still going to fight.
Oh, yeah.
Because if I don't protect these kids, who is? And all these kids might not be mine by birth, but guess what? They mine.
They are.
That's right. That's right.
They mine. You should never mess with anybody that had anything to do with me. Because not only am I a black woman, but I'm a mad-ass black woman.
Oh, no, that's right. Yeah. I hear you.
So I want you, the chief of police and the Aurora Police Department, to connect the dots of what's going to happen next. Because I hope they get everything that's coming to them.
Thank you, Brittany.
All right, man.
Thank you, Brittany.
That's it.
Here we have another mother from Aurora. You want to know how she feel about supporting the new chief of police?
I just feel like when she was interim, this was happening. And so now that you are in place, what are you going to do different? And I'm tired of the high-risk stop. You can't keep using that as an excuse to pull guns on our kids. It's not going to work anymore. It's not, I mean, even in my case, even if you thought, you know, this car left at a high speed from a shooting, once you pulled them over and you realized there was a young lady in the car, why didn't your mind stop and say, you know what, let me approach this differently, right? You call it a high-risk stop. You didn't search my vehicle. You never searched my vehicle, so what were you looking for? You have my daughter and her brothers on the ground, handcuffed. You patted them down, you stayed there, and you told me that because all of a sudden when I get to the scene, because like I stated before, I was not at the scene. When I get to the scene, I, as any mother, I see my 19-year-old who I know is an honor student in college handcuffed. I definitely was highly upset. And I was definitely talking to the officer rude, but I don't owe you anything. Unhandcuff my kid. You have nothing to have her handcuffed for. And my thing is, I was fortunate enough that because, you know, like my uncle's a pastor here, my dad used to pastor here, I reached out to the right people. So I got to see the video. It didn't change my reaction. The body cams, it didn't give me, I wasn't like, oh, that's why you pulled a gun. No. The body cam did not display any reason for you to use that type of force on kids. And I just think it's her job now. You want to be chief, you want support. It's your job to dismantle the system that was built to systematically oppress us as brown and black people. That's your job now. Your job is to go and either fire or retrain, and not retrain going to some type of counseling. No, you need to do a mental evaluation of biases that people have against us. We cannot just keep doing the same thing and putting Band-Aids on stuff. You can't keep being like, oh, this is protocol. Well, your protocol needs to change. If you're telling me that you were okay with what happened to my daughter, to these other daughters, to these other kids, your system needs to change, and it's broke. That's right. And we're not going to keep standing here letting you apologize, because I got an apology. A written one, a verbal one. That didn't change my daughter's opinion. When we left out of there, she wasn't like, oh, I'm so glad they apologized. That's so nice. No, she still is frightened of the police right now. And so I right now challenge the chief. If you want to be the chief that you really want to do the hard work, you have to stand and make some hard decisions. You can't just keep being silent. You can't stand with the norm. You got to be above the norm. You got to set the standard. And if you can't set the standard, we don't want you. We want somebody who's going to set the standard, live by the standard, abide by the standard, and hold police accountable, period. This good old boy network needs to be cut down at the knees and built right back up. You cannot continue to tell me that everybody's following protocol. You can't stand by systematic racism and call it protocol.
Correct.
You can't do that. And so until she does that, until she makes some type of brash, where people notice it, you're not doing anything different than when you were the interim. You haven't done anything different. And so I just challenge her to do what's right. Do what's morally right, what's biblically right. Do what is right for these kids. They should never experience this. My daughter's friends were outraged when she happened. They had never heard of this. Her college friends, they were like, what happened? They've never went through this. None of it, like, this is unacceptable. And until she recognizes that and stop apologizing, we don't want your apology. We want you to recognize and change.
Thank you. Thank you.
I can definitely answer that question.
Come on.
You know, with the city and county of Aurora and Denver, the change that can go is first realizing, do they do personality assessments on these officers? I mean, that can go first. Secondly, common sense. I mean, common sense don't come as common. Like, you know, when you see kids, the 6-year-old on the ground, what is the 6-year-old going to do that is so intimidating to you as an officer trained with a gun? With my daughters, there was no call of a threat. It was just a call of someone in a car with a gun. When has it been illegal in the state of Colorado to even carry a gun? I believe that, you know, you can't illegally carry a firearm. So they need to take a step back and look at their protocols, because they always say that's protocol. Well, what is protocol? Because we need to rewrite protocol. Right. Because the protocol is you getting scared and pulling out guns on kids and handcuffing kids and putting kids on the hot cement on the floor, on the ground in 100-degree weather. That's not common sense. No. Like, and we can start there with the basics. That's, you know, the basics. Everything else follows. But it's just the basics, the common sense, personality assessment.
Psychological.
You know,
Yeah.
psychologically, do these officers have a bias type of a mentality? Are they out there on their own biased reasons to go target the black and brown community? I mean, that I feel like that could be the start of the change, is assessing these officers before they are allowed to go and serve the community. And then the police chief, they could definitely keep their word as far as like going to meet with these families that have been abused by their officers, and hold these officers accountable. If they did something unjustly to the community, like they said, they work for us. So if they did something unjustly to the community, they need to have not suspended with pay. Yeah, they not a vacation. They need to really have consequences.
Correct.
And I'm gonna just leave it there because it starts with the basics. And if we can break down the basics and rebuild that up, everything else will follow.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I want to talk. Let me answer that first question as far as the trust for Chief Wilson. The Greater Metro Denver Ministerial Alliance met with Chief Wilson upon Thursday. And I must say that when Chief Wilson came in, she came in very much apologetic. And I think we've talked about apologies out here. She came in very much confessing, and I think that Bishop Foreman stated that she knew it would not happen if it would have been a white family or white children. She came in, talked about systemic change, what has to happen with some type of restructuring of the department. And she stated she just got in office, so give her a chance. But we understand she's been in office. You didn't just get here because if you're interim, you're in office. And they've taught us that the buck stops with the leader. So everything that happens in Aurora falls up underneath her. So the Ministerial Alliance is saying that we got to see put up or shut up. We're saying that we've got a flashlight in the middle of the daytime, watching everything that you do. We're not talking about we're waiting 2 and 3 months. I received a letter from District Attorney Brockler that said just hold for a minute. And we are now investigating to see if charges should be brought up. First of all, he's term limited and he's out of here in a couple of months. He really don't have a dog in the fight. So if we want to wait on him, things will never change. So we're saying that we need immediate change. Now I got a call from the Denver Post. They said, you giving 72 hours? I said, after we talked to Chief Wilson, we took away the 72 hour. But that don't mean that the 72 hour didn't turn into 102 hours. But we're looking for immediate change. So if she does not comply, then we're going to take the next steps. And one of the biggest ones we are talking about is the calling of the Justice Department. So things can be looked at Aurora PD totally. Top,
Federal.
to bottom. Federal, yes.
Yes, on the federal
Judicial.
level.
That actually feeds right into my next question to the families. I wanted to hear the long-term changes they'd like to see both in Aurora and Denver Police Departments and what needs to be done to actually make that happen.
You like to hear from the families?
If you're comfortable answering.
Israel. Come here, Brittany. They want to know what long-term change do you want to see happen? Come on, baby. What's your name? Angela. They want to know what kind of long-term change do you want to see. You want to ask the question again?
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys would tell me the long-term changes you'd like to see in both Aurora and Denver Police Departments and what actually needs to happen to make those changes stick, to make them last.
I would like to see black and brown children treated the same as little white boys and girls. see policies put in place where black and brown little kids can be treated with the same equality as white little boys and girls. I would like to see adults, when they're stopped at traffic stops, unarmed, able to go home to their families. We have serial killers that have gone out and shot up churches, that have gone in and shot up malls, movie theaters. They're alive to tell their story. They've seen their day in court. But we see our African-American males and females end up dead at the hands of police officers, and there's no accountability whatsoever. There's video that surfaced. Everyone gets appalled. The fight begins. But at the end of the day, those officers are getting slaps on the wrist. We need some real change, and we need liaisons between African-American and police, because it's obviously they're not doing their job. I went to Denver Police Department and filed my complaint. Spoke with an officer. He asked me who am I filing my complaint against. I told him who the officer was, told him who I was. He said I have to go get a sergeant to deal with this complaint. He didn't come back for 45 minutes. I was standing outside of the police department looking like a fool, thinking they were going to come back to help me, but they weren't. These are the type of things that we need to see change.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, so I think I touched on it earlier. I think that the system has to be broken down. It just has to be broken down, dismantled, and restarted. And I think that the way you do that is that you start holding these officers accountable. Let's start with that. You know, you can't keep letting them continue to do the same things. And I'm sure if we looked at all these officers involved, this is not their first stop. This isn't their first interaction that wasn't pleasant with African-American women, men. So you first need to hold police accountable. That's the first step. Once you start holding them accountable, and not just the chief, but other police, you should be policing other police officers. If you're with your partner and you think what he's doing is not right, speak up. Change. Be like, we're not going to put these kids on the ground. That doesn't make sense to me. Let's do some, what else can we do? I mean, and so I think until we break that system, you have to fire, first of all, those cops that are not right. And they know who they are, and so does the chief. Then you have to hire and train new cops. And you need to hire and train new cops that represent the districts they serve. You serve in District 2. I live in District 2. I grew up in District 2. There's no reason why you should know what my daughter looks like. So when you came in contact with her, oh, this is Jayla. She's home from college. Oh, she wasn't a part of this. Let me make sure everybody's okay. You should know the people who you police. You start there. So therefore, when you see us, you're not intimidated because you know these kids. You've seen them grow up. So you should be living in areas that you police, or at least have some type of facial recognition of the areas that you police. That's first, because then you start breaking down those biases that we all have. Like, we're not going to stand here and say people don't have biases. We all have them, right? But how do you break down those biases, right? You can't keep doing the same thing. So to break down those biases, you need officers that look like me, that are brown. And then you need officers that are not, that understand systematic racism and are like, you know what, this is my child, and I'm going to treat this child as if it was mine. And when you start thinking like that, you change the mindset. But it has to start with the chief. She has to look at all this as her family. This is my daughter. Them is my grandkids. This is my daughter. I have a daughter in college. If this would happen to her, I'd be devastated. And I'm sorry, wouldn't fix it. Right? And so she has to be accountable before she can hold anyone else accountable. So for me, and this is just my point of view, the Good Old Boys Network would be just like me and her. We grew up together. You know, we're acquainted. We know each other. If something happens, I turn a blind eye to what she did, even though I know it was wrong, because we're friends, because we took an oath together to stand by each other. Instead of me calling her out, like, you know what you did wasn't right, and we're here and we're a servant as a police officer. We are here to protect and serve. We took an oath to protect the communities that we serve in. They stand and take an oath, and we want you to live up to the oath that you're taking. And so when I speak of the Good Old Boys Network, that's what I'm talking about, turning a blind eye to situations when you know your partner or you know there's 5 or 6 police officers that are doing wrong. And not only do you not say nothing, you don't report them, you stand by them, so you let them think that this is okay, which now makes the system flawed. Because if I think it's okay, then she thinks it's okay, then she thinks it's okay. Now we have 20 people that think that systematic racism is okay, because not one of us, even though I might be thinking, you know, I might have grew up and been like, you know what, I don't agree with you. But until I call you out on it, I feel this person feels like they're in agreement with me. And so that's what I mean, my personal interpretation of the Good Old Boy Network, and I feel like the police department fall underneath that. And let's not forget that the police, their badge is still the same when they were a slave catcher. They have not changed that. Back in when slavery, the badge looks the same. So how do you go from the slave catcher to the protect and serve? You got to break down that systematically. You can't keep just, oh, I've been on the force 30 years. So what? It's time for you to go. If you're not going to police and protect the way that you should be doing it. I mean, I think you have to start with firing. When people know their job is on the line, they will change.
Others need to see it.
You know, others need to see it. I work in corporate America. I can't go to work and do whatever I want every day.
That's right.
And still have my job. I can't. There's an accountability. Every year I have an annual performance. I have to perform to get a bonus. I have to perform to keep my job. And that's what we need to do, is hold them accountable. They need some type of accountability. And I would even say, if you're in District 2, your accountability should be to the people.
Yeah.
We should be able to judge your merit on what you did over the year and how you did your job.
I just want to slip in for a minute and answer your question. As she was saying about the Good Old Boy Network, just so you have clarity, to identify the Good Old Boy Network, they returned to the scene where a young 23-year-old was killed, and they demonstrate the chokehold and laugh and send it back to their friends. That's the Good Old Boy Network. So don't ever think that it's not very obvious or we don't understand. We understand it very well. When they do that, that is doing a person because of their color of their skin, and they think it's funny. It's something they should make mockery of. That's the Good Old Boy Network.
You know, I agree with that young lady said. I agree with that young lady said. You got to hold them accountability. I feel like we as the people can't adjust to someone that can't adjust to us. And frankly, the Aurora Police Department cannot adjust to us because they don't serve us. They don't protect us. You know how hard it is to see my 6-year-old every night screaming. And then not only that, let me tell you something. After my 6-year-old experienced that, you know what she did? Now, she don't listen to rap or anything like that. She pulled up a video about Black Lives Matter. And it was this main part that she kept watching about an officer kneeling on a black man's neck and saying officers or cops are the same. You forced my child to shape you in a way that I did not ever want her to shape you.
Wow.
She was supposed to make her own decision by herself, but you forced that upon her. Not only on her, but a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 17-year-old. For them to ever experience that. We cannot adjust to you if you cannot adjust to us. We all complied, but after we complied, it still got hostile. The good boy system. It's easy. training, procedure. It's not even about defunding, changing procedure. Get a policy and stick with it. But get a policy that's going to serve we as people, we as a community, not only for black people, but for all minorities and white people too. We shouldn't have to deal with that. Simple. At any point in time, somebody could have changed it. Not one person did. It was hot. It was definitely hot, and I can't even tell you. It was so many emotions going within me. But you know what? At that point in time, I had to think about the kids, and I had to keep telling myself, you know what? You got to be strong, because if the kids see you crying, they will think it's okay to cry. And even before they start handcuffing me and everything like that, I had to look at the kids like, look at me. Do you see me crying? I'm handcuffed. I got to put them in the back of the vehicle. You don't see me crying. It's okay. We gonna be okay. They have nothing on us. Nothing.
Is that something you feel like you should have had to
I have to teach them to be strong. Regardless of anything, you always have to teach a kid to be strong. But never did I ever think that I had to teach them how to look at a police officer, even with racism going on.
Yes, ma'am.
I never thought I had to be put in that pot of vote. But now it's like I have to talk to all these kids about what racism is, what slavery is, and how people can put you in a pot so easily the same way I was. And not only how I was, but these kids was. Whew. It takes a lot. But then, you know, I'm a strong woman, very strong. I did not break down until days later. And I was on the phone with my sister. I did not cry until days later. We in the store, and I felt like everything was just coming at me all at once. And I tried to be strong as much as possible, but that was my moment to cry. I'm not a female, I'm not a woman that cries a lot. I'm very hard. I have a hard exterior. But to see those kids go through it, it breaks you down, mentally, emotionally, and physically. I was not only dehumanized, but kids was dehumanized. I felt powerless. I felt weak, and I ain't never felt weak a day in my life. But to feel weak and feel alone, for only them to say it's just a mistake and they have the wrong vehicle, it's just disrespectful. You're not even disrespecting me, you disrespect the 4 kids. And yeah, go ahead. Definitely. You know, and that's the whole thing. You know, I experienced a lot of things growing up in Los Angeles and Compton, but you know, I got away from all that for peace, and they disrupted every ounce of my peace and these kids' peace. We did not feel at peace. We felt broken.
Are there any other questions? Okay, Bishop, no other questions.
Well, thank you so much. Media, we appreciate you coming out, being here with the Greater Metro Denver Ministerial Alliance. And we know you're going to give us a great story tonight at 10 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Power to the people.